is Python? Put simply, Python is an interpreted high-level programming language for general-purpose programming. Created by Guido van Rossum, Python has a design philosophy that emphasizes code readability, which reduces the cost of program maintenance. It doesn't require compilation, and much like Java, it is object-oriented. Python's high-level built-in data structures, combined with dynamic typing and binding, make it very attractive for rapid application development. It supports multiple programming paradigms, including object-oriented, imperative, functional, and procedural, and has a large comprehensive library. This book will explain more about these characteristics later. Interpreted, not compiled. A program is a set of instructions that direct a computer's hardware to perform certain tasks. The computer loads the instructions in its memory, reads the instructions, and executes them one by one. Creating a program requires a developer to write code using a programming language. Written code alone is not enough to make a program operational, since the computer doesn't understand code written using a programming language. There are two common ways to make written code an operational program. The first method is compiling, and the second method is interpreting. Usually, a developer compiles his written code using a computer. The compiler checks the validity of the code, and then it translates it to native code or instructions computers can understand. Programming codes of some programming languages like C and C++ require compiling. However, programs written using Python do not require compiling. Instead, they're interpreted. A separate program called the interpreter runs when a user executes Python code. The interpreter interprets or translates Python code to bytecode once a user executes it, which then allows the computer to understand the instructions in the code. Advantages of Python as an interpreted language. The problem with compiled programs in native code is that it only works on the target platform. For example, a program compiled for Windows operating systems will not work in Mac OS or a Unix-based program. Of course, the user can use a third-party program like virtual machines to run the compiled application. With Python as an interpreted language, a Python developer does not need to worry about that. Since the Python interpreter is basically a virtual machine of sorts, you can run Python code in almost every platform and device available. A very powerful benefit. Another problem with compiled language is the compilation process itself. Compilation takes time. A small program with 1,000 lines of code can take a minute or two to compile. That seems a small issue at first. However, if you need to debug, troubleshoot, or perform a test run of your program, you'll always need to compile it. And those 1 or 2 minutes compile time can easily add up. Another issue is that you can't edit the program easily. You always have to edit the source code, recompile, and debug. An interpreted language like Python does not have those issues. Once you're done with the code, you can just run it. If you're not satisfied, you can just go back on editing your code and run it again. This is why developers like to rely on Python for rapid application development, or RAD. Scripts. Programs written in Python are often referred to as scripts, especially if they're small in size. Scripts are small programs that are executed within a runtime environment. In Python's case, the runtime environment is the Python interpreter. Most scripts usually deal with text processing. In web development, Python is used as a server-side scripting language. Server-side scripting is basically a technique used in web development which involves employing scripts on a web server which produce a response customized for each user's request to the website. The alternative is for the web server itself to deliver a static web page.